Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order a special meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for October 24th, 2023. It's 9:31 a.m. Let's begin this morning with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, so we have one item on the agenda this morning, and this item was brought forward by Commissioner Pendergrass. So at this time, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Pendergrass.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you all for being here, and sorry for the inconvenience of the timing, but I think it's really important we talked about this. That's why I brought it up last week. So first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody here and our chairman of our delegation here. Lee County currently shares a great relationship with our current legislative delegation, and also with our local congressman, Byron Donalds, which today hopefully maybe makes some history, become maybe the Speaker of the House. So we got a great opportunity here in Southwest Florida, everyone between Congress and our state delegation and the county working together. And that's why it's so important that we have communication. And we talk about this. So a few weeks ago, I was approached by a member of the delegation, met with me here in my office and said that there was, he was asking about if there was a bill brought forward, would I support a bill to make a elected county mayor, administrator, manager, that he was approached by a lobbyist to bring this up. And of course, we talked about it in depth about the whole current government, Lee County, under the charter for government. And that he said it would not be on the agenda this year probably, but it could be brought up after the 30th in a special meeting before session, or it will definitely come up next year by another member based upon rotation of seats of the House delegation. So he also made it pretty clear that it was really important when I talk to other members that we have this communication, let them know how we feel as a board. In the past, I know publicly we've opposed it, some of us opposed it, some of us supported it, but I think it's really important that we speak up now before it's too late, before action is taken, and also so they know what we're looking for from the county government. And so this time I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to draft a resolution for the Board of County Commissioners opposing any future legislation pertaining to elected county executive, administrator, manager, mayor, and direct the chairman to provide copies to the resolution upcoming delegation meeting on the 30th. Lee County has a charter form of government, provides great representation to people as we serve now. That's my motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Pendergrass. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Sandelli. All right, at this time, we have a motion and a second. Do we have questions or discussion before we take public comment?
Yeah, I actually have a question.
Commissioner Greenwell, you're recognized.
Basically a statement. So my understanding is that that's not something they'll be voting on now, but it's something they could bring up in a special session. And this is just giving them our recommendation that we wouldn't be for that type of a new election for a county manager, our mayor, I should say.
To clarify the message I was given, if it didn't come up this session on the 30th, this meeting on the 30th, it could be brought up before the session starts in January, I believe. That special meeting would be called for before then. So I think it's really important to protect Lee County that we bring this up now so it's not brought up without us knowing about it in the future.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion before that? At this time, we do have members of the public who are here. I'd love to hear from them as well. I don't have any comment cards that have been turned in. We do have a motion and a second on the floor. Do any members of the public wish to speak? If so, raise your hand. Okay, please come forward.
Morning.
State your name for the record, please.
David Camberay. I have the privilege of serving as the president of the Lee County Fire Chiefs Association. And we fully support the current makeup of the board being able to hire this county manager. So we are in support of you moving forward with that type of legislation request.
Okay, thank you very much for your comment. Yes, please come forward and state your name for the record.
My name is Carol Baraki. As a resident of Lee County, I feel it's really important that we maintain the same form of government that we have for the county, as that given you the power to appoint any, mayor, whatever they want to call it, but you being on the first line of defense of all the information that we have, you need the opportunity to be able to appoint the people that work under you. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other comments then this morning? Last chance, last call for public comment this morning. Anybody want to speak in public comment? All right, I see no more speakers, so we'll go ahead and close public comment then at this time. Back to the board, we have a motion by Commissioner Pendergrass and a second by Commissioner Sandelli. We've had public comment. Any further discussion before anything? So here's my thought on the issue then. I'd like to weigh in a little bit. I think we're actually searching for a problem here that doesn't need to be solved right now. I don't understand why we would put this on the radar of the delegation if it's not something that they're already looking at, you know. The other question that I would ask is, what would be the actual, I guess what would be the actual consequence or reaction to passing this resolution? I don't know that by passing this resolution, the delegation would just say, oh, they didn't like it, so we're not going to do it. I mean, typically, resolutions and letters haven't swayed or been persuasive to delegations in the past. I think it's important right now to look at the thoughts that Commissioner Ruane shared, in that we need to go into this session unified, working together with our delegation to do everything we can to bring home hurricane relief funds for our community and not get distracted by issues that aren't even currently on the agenda. And so that's where I'm at on this. In fact, one of the things, since he did send an email to us, he's unable to join us at the meeting today, I'll go ahead and read into the record Commissioner Ruane's letter and thought on this, and that is, Dear Commissioners, this is not an issue on the agenda for the upcoming delegation meeting. As you know, we cannot bring up items that were not submitted by the deadline of Monday, October 16th. This is essentially a moot point. Regardless of my personal position on this issue, of which I do not support, sending a letter to the delegation or sending the chair to convey a message of what we should or shouldn't do is not in our best interest. We should consider the important appropriation asks we are requesting regarding hurricane recovery, water quality, infrastructure, and revenue deferral. I do not know the position of the other commissioners, but unless we have unanimous consent, which we do not with my opposition, I do not think we should engage when the board has a divided opinion. We should at the very least convey the message that the board is not unified in this message. Considering there are several members of this delegation that have expressed concerns regarding the BOCC, I do not believe opening another rift is in the best interest of the relationship between the BOCC and the delegation, especially since this issue will not be addressed at the delegation meeting. In my meetings last week, it was duly expressed of their concern. We need to focus this time on the issues that are most important to our county, and that is ensuring that we get the top legislative priorities funded. So that is from Commissioner Kevin Ruane, Commissioner District 1. So, again, just in closing, I think I understand, and I think the delegation is well aware of now how the board feels. Just by us having this special meeting, I think to formalize it in the form of a resolution is just unnecessary when it doesn't appear on the agenda. It was easy enough to call this special meeting to take an action if one was needed. And if it ever appears on an agenda with the delegation, we certainly could at that time call a special meeting and take an action if we felt it was necessary. And then finally, I just would like to say that I have tremendous respect for the voters of Lee County, right? The voters of Lee County voted in a charter for their Board of County Commissioners, and they voted in a charter with the current setup that it has. But should they ever want to change it, it'll be the voters of Lee County who want to change that as well. So that could be something that could be done through a charter amendment by petition, by the Charter Review Commission, or by the commissioners themselves. And so I would certainly hope that if the delegation wanted to bring this forward, they would give the commissioners or the Charter Review Commission or even the citizens a chance to use the current process to amend the charter without doing it through legislation. But at this time, I guess that concludes my comments. Commissioner Greenwell?
Yeah, I think it's important that we do get our message out there. I'd love to see the board 5-0, obviously, and there's always going to be some disagreement and some different philosophies. But the reality of it is, I know my personal belief is this, that I don't believe in adding another layer to government, and I believe that's adding another layer to government. I think we elect 5 county commissioners across the county, not just in our own districts, that's voted on countywide. I think we are the voice, and we should know that we're the voice and we should continue to be the voice. And that's my concern, is adding another layer. You know, it would be very difficult for me as a commissioner to deal with someone that is elected, that if you look at the layers of government, that I need to have something pervade to the, you know, something to get done. It seems like you would be taking that power away, where I could sit down with the county manager and fully give him my opinion, and he's an employee of the board, not someone that's elected. That's my concern. And I think it's important that the delegation knows how we feel, or at least I feel.
Commissioner Pendergrass?
I'd like to go back to my opening statement that we're here today because I had a meeting with someone from the delegation about this issue. So it wasn't not on the radar. It was definitely on the radar. There's obviously a plan in place, and some people in this room know what the plan was going to be about bringing this forward at a later date or either next year, because there's obviously an objective here to get come out, and so hopefully everybody would come out of the shadows and say what the real meaning for the purpose of this is. And I wasn't going to read Commissioner Wayne's email, which is a public record, out loud, because I don't think there's a rift between the Board of County Commissioners and the delegation. The chairwoman's here today. The delegation's been working great between Lee County and, like I said earlier, for the residents of Lee County, and we will continue to do that. I'm not sure why this one issue about our form of government wouldn't be an issue for the delegation, because we have a charter form of government, and we have representatives. We just went to the Charter Commission. Of those 15 people that we select, each one of us select 3 people that represent us from the community, and we made that choice again after 8 years ago. We just did it again now, going through the process now, that we like the current form of government. We did not want to change that form of government. Now, I know one person wants to see that changed, but I'm not going to set policy based upon one person's personal objectives. So.
Okay. Commissioner Sandelli, you have a question?
Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for being here this morning. A couple of things. One is, I probably have the least experience, you know, because I didn't grow up here, but I learned a lot in the last 5.5 years. What I was pleasantly surprised is that this system works. The system works far better than I anticipated. I was just a happy resident of Lee County. I'm very proud of that, and I've learned a lot since I've been in the seat. So from my perspective, the system works, and it goes back to if it's not broken, what are you trying to fix? Second thing is, we're seeing division at almost every level, from the federal level, from the state level, you know, down to the local level. And so when you see that division, you better double down and say, okay, this is my position, whether people agree with that or not. Take a stand. You know, what do you believe in? You know, put the stake in the ground, and don't be shy about, you know, about doing that. I know how I feel about it, and I think it's important that we do state a position going forward. I think the charter review just finished up. I think, you know, I think they've expressed their opinion on how they feel this was addressed before, and I think that's another layer of input, you know, into us. So, you know, I think that it's important, based on all the things that go on, that we establish a position, and a clear position. That's me.
You know, I'll finish up then by saying this. It's clear where this is going to go today. There's no doubt about, you know, how this is going to conclude. The only thing that I would say is I appreciate, Commissioner Sandelli, very much what you say about the system works. And I would say 90% of the time the system works really well. But I would also say that my personal experience, and now having been able to serve people on the county commission for 10 years, is that there are times when the system really breaks down. And there are times when an appointed person who doesn't seem to have their finger fully on the pulse of the residents would make decisions more from a bureaucratic mindset than a mindset of reaction to the voters. And I think evidence of that is how Governor DeSantis had to step in to build the Matlacha Bridge when action was not taken by our county manager at the time, who was, you know, an appointed county manager vested with the powers of a state of local emergency to do extraordinary things. And I can tell you that is something that I greatly disagreed with, but had no power to hold that county manager accountable for. So, you know, I mean, there are times when other decisions have been made that, you know, you disagree with as a commissioner, or you want to see something done different, but the appointed person has an opportunity to go and talk to all of us without violating sunshine, right? And steer, you know, things in their direction that they want to steer. And, 99% of the time, it's good, right? It's something that we all agree with. But there are times when I have felt that there are initiatives I wanted to put forward that did not get moved very, far. And I think a lot of that had to do with disagreements between the appointed person and myself. And so I think there's room, but I think the truth is, we don't really honestly even know what we're saying no or yes to right now. We've never had a legit conversation, and so that's where my mind is. I'm always open-minded. If there's a way to do this better, I'm always open-minded to understanding how to do it better or worse or whatever. And I think to just take a blanket statement, without ever exploring anything, to me, I think that's short-sighted. You could always have a workshop on something, understand it, and then say no to it. But again, I know where today's going to head, so. Commissioner
If I
Pendergrass.
could, I was back from Germany during that bridge incident, and any two of us can call any special meetings like we did today. So in the future, if you ever want to build a bridge, there's a problem, we just call a special meeting and tell the county manager, he or she, 3 votes to do something. So that can happen. I think being there that day, that was more of an issue about funding and also about who's jurisdiction of the waterways of the bridge. So, and I understand your frustration of sometimes not getting things done, because sometimes, like landfill issue, I was the losing side of that vote, but I still accept the process of having a county manager for that, because I will be on the losing side of the vote in the future too, but I still going to vote based upon what's best for the community though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, right? All of us are going to vote based on what we individually think is best for the community. So, yeah, that makes a tremendous amount of sense. All right, well.
And I don't think, I've sat up here long enough to see when we've had votes that went 4-1 or 3-2. So getting a unanimous consensus is not always the end game. It's pretty tough to do.
So if, real quick then, just for the staff, because the motion right now is to just draft a resolution, but we haven't given them any specifics. There is no proposal to look at. We have nothing to read. What should the resolution include?
So the resolution shall read that the Lee County Board of County Commissioners should it say, Richard, as far as the vote, I'm not sure how the vote's going to go yet. So just because you're absent, your vote doesn't count, so it's not considered an absent vote. But should it say majority of the Board of County Commissioners support a resolution opposing any type of future legislation against the elected county executive, administrator, manager, mayor, and direct the chairman to provide a resolution to the delegation, provide a copy, hand it to them, what do you want to do, on October 30th?
Mr. Chairman?
You're recognized.
Thank you, sir. We could handle that in a number of ways. One, we could spell out in the whereas clauses the vote, or secondly, which is more traditional, like for ordinance adoption, the last section of that ordinance indicates by commissioner name how they voted on the issue. If directed, we could put that in the resolution.
Is this normal practice, Richard? We do this every meeting. Usually a commissioner will bring up a letter saying supports a letter to somebody about water quality or something, or support their lobbyist for their funding for something, for a lake something. So we do this monthly, right? Correct? We give direction to be allowed, the letter be drafted, then it's signed and it's delivered from the chairman, correct?
You're recognized.
Yes, sir. And again, if it's the board's direction, we can certainly just put in a majority of the Board of County Commissioners voted in favor of the resolution or words to that effect, and just deal with the subject in that manner.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions then?
But this, again, this is something we do weekly, monthly. The board in past practices bring something forward like this, then to direct staff to create the language to bring it forward, correct?
Yes, sir. And, part of the difficulty we found ourselves in was, as staff, we work for the Board of County Commissioners as a collegial body. This request was made by a single commissioner. With all due respect to you, sir, we had to wait for board direction. So that's why you don't have a draft in front of you, because we do work for the entire board. So unless until the board directs us to do something, we did not put pen to paper. But it's consistent with our past practice. If this were handled in a circumstance where, we received direction and then brought it back at a subsequent meeting, then you would have a draft. But in this context, it's consistent with how the board's proceeded in the past of just directing staff to produce a document for the chairman's execution.
I have a question, County Attorney. Could a commissioner draft their own resolution for proposal so that their fellow colleagues could read it prior to voting on it? Is there any prohibition on that?
There's not a prohibition. there's not a precedent for it, but there's not a prohibition. Like I say, typically it's a function assigned to staff. What we could certainly do is circulate the draft, and then if there are any comments from individual commissioners, we could take those into consideration in possibly amending the language of the resolution. But I will suggest to you that the resolution would probably be drafted by our office in coordination with your manager, but it would be relatively short and sweet, whereas the board met, whereas the board decided, or majority of the board decided, now therefore be it known that a majority of the Board of County Commissioners have expressed, and then go in that fashion.
But in this
It would not
case-
be a diatribe by any stretch.
Yeah, but we're not going to get to read it before we pass it today, though.
Not the four corners of the document, no, sir.
Excuse me, if I could, the motion's to draft a letter. So it's not to accept the current letter, it's to draft a letter, like we do every week with other issues.
But it's to draft it and then present it.
Right.
Correct. So, I mean, yeah.
Commissioners, what I could suggest is, if the board would like, if you would take a recess, and we could certainly draft a resolution for board consideration. I don't think it would take yeoman's effort to put this type of resolution together. Like I say, in my mind, sitting here, it's a one-page document that could be put together and then distributed for board consideration today, if there's some uneasiness about the draft that might come back.
It's up to the will of the board. What do you want to do?
I trust staff, as they've done every week in the past, to draft language that would accept the motion from the board. It's up to my colleagues how they feel.
What about this?
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. Well, at this time then, is there any further discussion or deliberation? No, I'll go ahead and call the question. Are there any objections to the motion? Show one objection. The motion carries 3-1. Commissioner Hammond objects. All right. There are no further business before us, so at this time, we're adjourned. Thank you.